As we are entering the room that I call the pastoral, there's a very early series of images that actually are very informative to understand the way Cindy Sherman works. They're from 1975, and you see it's called Murder Mystery, and it actually functions a little bit like a scenario. Like a movie. There is a progression, there is a narrative being built, image after image. And then actually when you shoot the image, it would be almost nice that you can recompose the drama of these images, where you see a young woman sitting at a table with a mirror. She has a drink and a shaker, but with the mirror she is obviously making her makeup. That goes back to what Cindy Sherman does, the masquerade, the building a mask, building a character. As you progress through the series of images, other elements appear, like to anticipate almost the pastoral. Plants are appearing. You see her from the back doing a traveling around her. She's taking a drink. Then a second character, a scary character, appears armed with a knife. Then you can see that, last image, she's scared. Something is going to happen. So it's a bit caricatural, it's a bit stereotypical of film noir. But in terms of practice, I think it informs the way she works. They are cut out, so she cut these images. She layer the images on the top of each other. She's editing images. And that's the way she continues to work. I think, if I remember well, with the Clown series, she introduced digital technology in the work, but working the same way as she was doing in 1975 by layering image over background over images. And that's the way she has continued to work until today. So here in this room that I call the pastoral, you have this group of images. They all have something in common. Most of the background are connected to landscape. So it's also interesting to look at the work and noticing the way she has, over the years, also not only worked on the front image of the photographs, but also on the background, where they're becoming a little bit like the very early work we just seen, Murder and Mystery, that the background, the landscape, the pastoral is important. She goes back with these images, like they reach back to the world of films, a little bit like an updated version of the film stills, where the same actress reappeared in promotional images. But 50 years later, they have aged, and you can see it. And I think it's also something that there is in Cindy Sherman's work, and you see it as the work developed with time, because, as we mentioned at the very beginning, she is in all of the images. She is the material of her own work, and like everybody else, the body changes with time. And there is something quite melancholic about that, and seeing that time has an effect on us, even if you try to cover it with makeup, with masks, with fashion. There is almost the notion of memento mori in these images. We talked about Dorian Gray and Oscar Wilde. I just want to mention this one because there is, some kind of similarities with this idea of the 19th century romantic portrait character who could be Oscar Wilde. You see also that we are moving as the exhibition develops. There is a crescendo towards a very strange vortex of bodies. In my mind here, we are entering the world which is between Madame Bovary, this young lady living in a small town in France, bored and finding excitement in the company of a lover, and it ends badly. So you're between Madame Bovary and Madame Claude, and Madame Claude was one of the most famous French madame, providing the powerful with quote-unquote entertainment. And one of the last room of the exhibition, and we'll go there, actually goes full on in this direction. And I think if you look at the taxonomy of what she has embraced in terms of iconography, so film, fashion, painting, masquerade, festival, carnival, circus. Pornography is also part of it. And it's interesting, and if we go to this room here, where you have a very strange vortex of bodies. And of course, some of them are inspired by pornographic, at times violent S&M, though this one could be also totally inspired by Courbet, the origin of the world, and this one could be inspired by the French director Gaspard Noé, Irreversible. There is, of course, something in the work from the very beginning about sexuality, about seduction, and we saw it from the galleries of the great master, the room of theme stills. This body, the sexual part of representation, is very, very present. What's interesting is that it's a moment where Cindy Sherman, as a model, disappears herself, and either prosthetics or dolls are being used instead of a real body. Again, there is an history of that. You can look at the way, for instance, an artist such as Hans Bellmer in mid-20th century has made dolls the center of his work that was very much about attraction, desire, and sexuality. What's important to stress in these works is it's not only provocation. This image that at times could appear to be difficult, it's not only for the sake of provocation. At some point, the body as a field of desire, of seduction, of attraction, of pleasure, was also a vector of death, disease, and danger. And at some point, Cindy Sherman, like many of her peers, faced in New York, like everywhere else in the work, the AIDS crisis, where the body was the threat. The notion of pleasure was directly synonymous with the notion of a deadly threat.